So, thank you for coming to the Common Application Workshop tonight. And I will turn it over to our presenter today, Sean Felton. I'm very grateful that he can be here with us today and be able to share such important information with us. So, Sean, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. How are you? Wave if you can hear me. Those who have your cameras on, that's fine. Great. Thank you guys so much for having me, and I'm really pleased to join you this evening, and I'll also be with you on Thursday evening too. I've been at Cornell University for almost 18 years. I am the senior director of undergraduate admissions at the university, and really love it and know a lot about it, but I don't know everything about it. I'm still learning stuff. I love our students. They're just so interesting. And over my time here, I've seen a lot of them grow and become extraordinary people, people who are more successful than I am. So it's been really exciting being a part of the educational experience and just the growing experience for our students at Cornell. Um, for this evening, I'm going to sort of provide you sort of, at least for tonight, you're going to get sort of three discrete sections of, three or four discrete sections of engagement. The first part is really fun. All you have to do is look at pictures and listen to me. The second part will be a little bit of an information session because while I have a captive audience, I would not want to not talk about Cornell University specifics, details on the way to talking about the admissions application. And I'll talk about that probably from the vantage point of Cornell, but also broader than Cornell, just because I'm a firm believer that unless you're applying early decision, you shouldn't be applying. You should be applying to more than one school for sure. So I want to talk a bit broadly, and then I will actually show you. Um, so it's good to be here, right? I'm going to actually show you an application or two or three, just a part of it, so you can see what choices and decisions we would have already talked about, and what choices and decisions a student who applied previously actually made. So if we were meeting in person, I would have handed out a paper application for you to look at. So you're still getting to see the real thing. It's just sort of in this new and exciting way that's everything is happening nowadays, which is via Zoom. But I want to thank Weva and the AIISP staff for having me and for having this event. And let's get started. This is the fun part, by the way, because the screen sharing, I always mess that up. Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen, you guys. I'm going to show you a little bit of what Cornell looks like. I'm going to assume that most of you have not ever seen our beautiful campus before, or maybe you've seen pictures like this. But I think you guys can all see. Wava, you can just nod if you can see the image of the clock tower. Fabulous. Okay, so this is the McGraw Clock Tower. This is the tallest point on the Cornell University campus. Cornell is located in Ithaca, New York. We're 225 miles northwest of New York City, in the Finger Lakes region of New York. There are a lot of little lakes. We are just south of Syracuse, just north of the New York-Pennsylvania border, almost smack dab in the center. Beautiful place. The trees look just like this right now in this picture because the leaves are all changing color. It's really cool. We have a lot of this happening in Ithaca and in the surrounding sort of Finger Lakes and central New York area. A lot of water that is falling. We have a lot of natural waterfalls in this area. And you can, again, in the background, see the trees. I have a lot of pictures of the trees just because they're really beautiful. This is actually a fall shot. This is exactly what it looks like here. The leaves are changing color. We actually got some rain today, which we've needed. But fall is a brilliant time, beautiful part of the year in Ithaca here at Cornell. This is a picture of our campus. The Cornell campus is known for a variety of different architectural styles. Byzantine, I mean, some of these may not sort of make sense to you. Lots of different styles, Tudor, English Tudor style, steel and glass, postmodern, 21st century, 20th century kind of stuff. Lots of different styles. You can see the different color of bricks used, and the different sort of designs of some of the buildings. Cornell is non-sectarian, but in this image you see right at the bottom is our university chapel, Sage Chapel. Non-sectarian just means that we are not religiously affiliated, but Cornell is a university that welcomes everyone. And there are lots of opportunities for people to be themselves and do those things and be a part of those things that are important to them once they get to our campus. So beautiful school. More of the buildings. You can see the styles. The building in the lower right hand corner, that's called Gates Hall. Bill and Melinda Gates Hall. They provided funding, part of the funding for this building. I refer to this building as the spaceship, but I think it's one of the coolest buildings we have on our campus. Right above that, in the upper right hand, is the architecture studio. Cornell has a 5-year architecture program that is one of the best, if not the best, in the whole country. And we have 55 architects enter each year, and they do their studio work in that space, that floating space, the architecture studio floating above the highway there, the road. It's actually a very cool building that the architects get to do their work in. And then the building on the lower left, I want to mention that one. That is Stocking Hall. Cornell is known for architecture, architectural engineering, agricultural engineering, agricultural sciences, still wrong A, on to agriculture, something we're known for as well. And this building in the lower left, Stocking Hall, is actually where the Cornell Dairy Bar is located. So Cornell has its own cows, and from Cornell cows we get Cornell milk, and with Cornell milk we make Cornell ice cream, something we're known for. Isn't that cool? Excellent. Something else we're known for, all 4 seasons, snow. This young lady is from a really warm climate, a country that's near the equator, and look at the smile on her face. Oh my gosh, seeing snow for the first time. It's awesome. She's even throwing snowballs. She has her hat on, has her coat, her gloves. Winter is survivable. It is not impossible or difficult for the Californians who are down in the sort of lower part of California, Southern Californians. Please do not worry. You would be fine here. Anywhere in the Northeast in the wintertime, it is possible. This is probably, I think, the most beautiful library on our campus, Catherwood, but there are so many different libraries. We have 19 libraries, physical spaces where you can go and actually study, and you can actually get books and check them out, read them while you're there. Just beautiful, beautiful libraries. Universities are supposed to have libraries, but I think sometimes this one is so beautiful. I can imagine sometimes our students fall asleep in the libraries, and I can almost understand why you might fall asleep here, because it's kind of magical the way it looks. So this is the Arts and Sciences Quadrangle, an outdoor space. And students here are in a small class. They're actually seated in front of Sibley Hall, which is the building in which our architecture school is located. But Cornell has a lot of outdoor space. We're a medium-sized school, and we have classes of all different sizes. We have some really small classes. This is one of them. And when the weather is nice, we absolutely have class outside. You will also see students walking and biking and running and playing basketball and taking advantage. You'll see the Cornell Big Red Bear, the unofficial mascot outside sometimes, the marching band. So a lot of use of the outdoors, absolutely, when it's possible, when it's not too cold or snowing. Our students are really active and involved inside the classroom and also outside the classroom. You can see Gates Hall there again in the upper right-hand corner. Again, you can say Sean called that the spaceship. Don't say that actually. And then the building in the lower lower left is Stocking Hall at night. So that's the ice cream place. Don't forget about the ice cream place, Cornell ice cream, but lit up at night. Look at that blue light that's coming through the windows. Very cool. There's a lot of cool stuff. The buildings, all of it. It's a beautiful campus. And then the other two pictures are showing our students in action. Project teams are a big part of the engineering and technical experience that students across any number of majors might be having. And you can see that's one of our vehicles that students have built at Cornell in the lower right. In the upper left, that is a group of students that are actually inside Gates Hall, working on problem sets. So a lot of community, I would say just a lot of sort of working together in teams and groups happens here at the university. And some of our colleges, it's actually expected because the homework is so hard. It takes a lot of different points of views to get it done. These students are involved in community service. Cornell is very big on students being involved and giving back to the community. And so these three young ladies are actually building a house as a part of Habitat for Humanity right on our campus. This is like the center of campus. They're building a house. I mean, how easy is it to be involved as a Cornell student when all you have to do is walk out of your classroom and you can lend a hand, right? That's really awesome. So, and look at the smiles on their face too. I mean, they're having a good time. They're talking to each other. You can see they're multitasking too. The young lady has her earbud in, but she's also talking to them and working at the same time. So Cornell students are very active. We like that about them. The student organizations, I think there's a slide about that later on, but students are very active here. Inside the classroom, they're doing a lot. Outside the classroom, they're doing a lot. They're trying to have fun. They're trying to have an experience. They're really sort of digging in, finding their people, and that's what you should be thinking about doing too, as part of your college or university experience, no matter where you end up going. Athletics is one way that happens. Cornell is an Ivy League institution. No one thinks about us when they think about basketball or football, because we're just not that kind of school. We're not a big public institution that has, the biggest, best football team ever, or, a history of extraordinary performance on the basketball court. However, 2009, Cornell University made it to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA basketball championship, thanks to this guy with a ball in his hand. Louis Dales is his name. I can't believe I remember that. And 2009 was 11 years ago. So in case you're wondering. And then this really tall guy in the middle here, his name was Jeff Foote. And I believe he's actually 7 feet tall. How about that for coincidence, name and how tall he is. He's a center on the basketball team, but these guys were extraordinary. 2009, we were in the Sweet 16, if you will, among the top 16 basketball programs in the United States, in the country. Crazy, but it happened. So it happened that one time, it'll never happen again. So this is one of our students who's in a breakdancing group. There's a lot of this kind of stuff. If you're flexible and like to dance and like music, if you're into any kind of performance and dance, you will find it here. We have so many we have ballroom dancing. There's obviously cultural dance and performance opportunities, across many communities and identities, which is really pretty awesome. So this is definitely not a stale place where people are only studying. I don't want you to think that at all. I want you to know that we're very, very active here, and there's too much to do. There's so much to choose from, and you will make choices at Cornell if you're a student here. So a little bit more about Cornell, you guys, and then we'll start talking about the admissions application. Alrighty. So a little bit about the university, and if you're planning to apply to Cornell, if you do apply, it'll be important to know a little bit about the university, the background, the history, the context of the school. It'll help when you're writing your essays. As you're looking at colleges, you should be trying to map on who you are and what you want, your expectations, your ideal sort of things, almost having a checklist. And you should be thinking about that checklist as you're looking at colleges and universities around the country, Cornell included. So we were founded by two native New Yorkers, Ezra Cornell, for whom the university's named, Andrew Dixon White, who was the first president of the university. There are statues of these two gentlemen actually looking at each other on the arts quadrangle. They're sort of almost staring at each other, almost staring each other down. And the founding philosophy of the university was any person, any study. And what that was really about was really sort of opening Cornell wide in terms of who might be a student studying here. Cornell was one of those institutions that really kind of broke barriers and molds in terms of what education looked like. When the university was founded, we combined engineering with the classical liberal arts, maths, sciences, humanities, languages. We combined engineering with that. We combined agriculture with that. We're just sort of pushing back. I always say that this place is intentionally different, intentionally diverse, and certainly intentionally distinct, right? But bringing agriculture and architecture and engineering alongside the classical, the sort of classical tradition of university study when the university was founded was really revolutionary. And we really changed education in some significant ways, what it looked like and what it could be at that time. Um, we're known to sort of be a place that has a lot to choose from, and it's really because the notion of student choice has been a driver of opportunities, decision making, and really kind of how to create and recreate and better create the university experience for students for a very long time. And so we keep adding things. In fact, we're going to be adding another college very soon to go along with the 7 that we already have. So we're always thinking like, what is it students want? And we look to see what patterns there are in terms of the major students choose and the interest students have. And we add more minors all the time. We've also been increasing access to different programs, regardless of what major you might be doing. All students at Cornell can minor in business, regardless of their major. So you could be an English major who minors in business. You could be a student who's studying fine art and minor in business. So we're always thinking about how to really, really kind of continue to sort of reinforce this idea of any person, any study. The any person piece is really interesting too. The university is committed to being diverse, intentionally diverse. The variety of individuals that study here is probably one of the most important things that I can think of to describe this place. Um, if we were not diverse, this would not be Cornell. And what I mean by that is if there weren't people who have different points of views, who have different backgrounds, different perspectives, different positions on issues, different political leanings, different religious and cultural backgrounds. If there wasn't this true mix of people, it would not be Cornell. That is what this place has been to me for the last 18 years. I have met people that I never thought I would meet, and I'm not even a student. So I can only imagine how much farther how much farther this goes and would be for students who are meeting the other students who are from 120 countries around the world, every state in the US, Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and so on and so forth. So it's really just this place where we bring everyone together and we know that they're not the same, and that's okay because we learn from other people who are different from us. We actually learn to sort of think about ourselves in a different way, and we also learn to consider the other individuals that surround us as well. And that's the moment where real learning happens, regardless of the class or the discipline. It could be nutrition, it could be design and environmental analysis. It could be a chemical engineering class. Someone from South Africa and someone from Brazil and someone from Nebraska are going to have 3 different points of view that may converge in many sort of ways, but they also are going to diverge in many, many more ways. And really the opportunity to meet someone and learn from someone who's not from where you are, that's kind of the whole point of the university itself. You get to meet other people, you get to hear ideas, you get to sort of think about them, you get to challenge them. Other people who come here are going to be doing the same thing, and you get to sort of engage each other in a responsible and and courteous way, obviously. But that's how this place works. That's how new stuff gets invented. That's how we create new things and figure out better ways to do a lot of the things that we do in our lives, and to make the future as great as it continues to be, in so many ways. So something to keep in mind. Back to the slide though. Just a couple things. We are an institution that is need blind for admission for US citizens and permanent residents. Um, and actually, that extends as well, to eligible non-citizens. So students who are asylees, who are refugees, and students who are undocumented or with DACA status all can qualify for need blind admission. We only provide need-based financial aid because we are an Ivy League institution focused on undergraduate education. We only provide need-based financial aid. Students who are applying for admission are often applying for financial aid at the same time, and we meet 100% of any financial need that you demonstrate when we review your financial aid application. So keep that in mind. Cornell is also well known, not just in the US, but around the world. And so students have opportunities to do study abroad while they're undergraduates in other places on Cornell programs. We have a wonderfully well-known program in Rome that many of the architecture students and fine art students go on. We have other programs in London and other places as well around the world where you can study with Cornell faculty, but you can also go on other programs, study abroad programs, hosted by other universities. So there are lots of ways to sort of leave campus, and not that you need to, but there are lots of opportunities away from campus. The New York City Tech campus in New York City, you've probably heard of it. There could be opportunities for students in terms of perhaps getting work experience, internships, career opportunities related to that possibility. We have a graduate medical school and a graduate medical sciences and medical school in New York City. So that's another thing, another opportunity in campus that undergraduate students can actually utilize. I mean, there's just so much, and I would encourage you to check out our website. There's just so much to know about what's available at the university and beyond, Ithaca for sure. So I mentioned we were among the first to combine the theoretical and the practical, or theoretical and the practical. And this combining of liberal arts and engineering and journalism, believe it or not a liberal art, journalism, communications, architecture, just agriculture. We were just different from the beginning. We were destined to be different. And we have really invested time and energy into sort of absorbing that and really using this identity that Cornell University has to our advantage, using our location to our advantage, really. You see that all over the place at the university. Students, in terms of their interest, in terms of the things that they access off campus, our location in Ithaca provides opportunities, but it doesn't limit opportunities. I was asked just the other day, do students only get internships in Ithaca and upstate New York? And the answer is absolutely not. Our students go to Tel Aviv for internships. That's in Israel. Our students go to Costa Rica for internships and for jobs. Our students go to Seattle, Washington, California, Texas. I mean, one of my students actually went back to Ghana actually for for an internship and a program that he was doing. So there's so many opportunities available beyond the campus. The university has great connections embedded in lots of places, lots of opportunities for students to learn away from campus, as many as there are certainly on campus. Let's talk about the colleges, the undergraduate colleges here pretty quickly. So when you apply to Cornell, you actually choose one college to apply to. Although when we get your application, we might consider you for another college, just so you know. but you do have to select one of the colleges. The 7 colleges are probably the thing, besides diversity, and this is a part of that, diversity of person, practice, and thought. This is probably one of those things for which the university is best known. All of the academic choices. There's so many things to choose from. So we have 7 colleges. You see them here: Ag and Life Sciences, Architecture, Art and Planning, Arts and Sciences like Physics and English and Chemistry, Cognitive Science, Computer Science, Performing and Media Arts, Comparative Literature, 40 majors in Arts and Sciences, 3 majors in Architecture, Art and Planning. The Agriculture and Life Sciences College was the very first college founded at Cornell. And in that college, we study food, nutrition, policy, the life sciences. It's a really interesting college, really focused on science. Communication is in that college. Our business program is partially located in that college. So lots to choose from in all the colleges. We also have a separate College of Business that combines the undergraduate business program called Applied Economics and Management with another undergraduate business program called Hotel Administration. So Cornell has 2 accredited undergraduate business programs. I'm not sure many institutions can say that. But again, back to what I was saying earlier, we just keep adding things because we're trying to allow for students' imaginations and whatever their journey is that they want to shape and create. We really want to sort of allow for that. The College of Engineering, we have 3,000 plus undergraduate engineers on the campus, part of the campus, and that's 20% of our 15,000 undergraduates. Engineering is a big deal here. We are a top 10 engineering program in the US across all kinds of schools. So engineering is definitely something for which the university is known and has been known for a long time, something we do at the highest level possible. The College of Human Ecology is an interesting place. This would be the college, if I were going back to school, this would be the college that I would find myself in, because I like the way that the faculty members in the college teach. I like the way that they learn. So in human ecology, they study policy, they study applied social sciences, they study life sciences, and they also kind of, they look at how all those things intersect relative to the human ecosystem, the human condition. They look at what's going on inside our bodies and outside of our bodies, and the connection of all those things, and how those connections allow us to live the lives we live. I mean, they look at spaces, they look at, small cells in the body, spaces outside the body. It's really quite interesting what they do in this college. And the sort of the focus on applied social sciences and looking at development and looking at policy affects what we do, how we live our lives. It's really a very interesting place to combine all those things in all those discipline or lenses, if you will, in such an integrated way. I just find it fascinating, and that's the college I would choose. But I'm not sure. Maybe I would choose arts and sciences too, because I'm a bit of a musician, and music, performing and media arts is in arts and sciences, and I could combine music and theater and writing in that college. So there's a lot to choose from, so much to choose from. And then last but not least is our smallest college, the School of Industrial and Labor Relations. They actually study human resources. They study labor movements, labor unions. This college is really focused on the workplace, the world of work. Looking at labor policy, again, is something that happens quite a bit in terms of its study and considering its use at Cornell. But in this college in particular, looking at policy, looking at different countries and how those countries support workers, individual workers, how those countries, the US included, support larger organizations, corporations, and really sort of, even sort of going sort of in an applied social science direction, looking at the organizational psychology, the relationship between, let's say, a supervisor in an organization or a leader in an organization and the workers. What kind of leadership is best in this kind of organization? And they do this on the national and international arena in the School of Industrial and Labor Relations. So there's a lot to choose from here. So if you're looking at Cornell and you've not gotten started, get started. A lot to choose from. These are all the majors. I actually typed these out one day. How long do you think it took me? A long time, right? Because of all those colons, actually. I'm a pretty fast typist. This actually took me about 15 minutes. So, but these are all the majors, a lot to choose from. Agricultural sciences, I mentioned, is one of the things that we sort of added to the study of French and chemistry and mathematics. We were just mixing it up, just changing, what education was going to be like. At institutions like ours, you can study anthropology. That's actually what my graduate work is in. Along with music, you can study biology in so many different ways at Cornell. Languages, communication. We do a lot of design and environmental work here. The science type, we also look at design and the environment in a number of majors. Fashion design, no, I think that's probably the major that few people know about. Cornell has a fashion design management program, and we're the only Ivy League institution that has a PhD in fashion design. So it's pretty awesome. You can study, information science, landscape architecture, linguistics, so many things to choose from. Viticulture and enology, grape growing and wine production. That's related to where we are in upstate New York because this region is the second largest grape producing and wine or grape growing and wine production region in the United States behind Napa Sonoma. So it's really interesting all the things that happen at a place like this. It makes it very exciting to be a student here. I mentioned all of the student organizations. These were all created by Cornell students over time, over the university's history. So to have 1,200 plus student organizations, they're cultural organizations, performative organizations, pre-professional organizations, political organizations. There are organizations like the Accounting Association. I guess that'd be pre-professional. Can't imagine what the Accounting Association does. It sounds like it might be kind of a boring group of folks, but only because accountants aren't known to be the most exciting folks in the world. But it is a great profession, obviously, and we need accountants. So, but there's really so much you can choose from, so much you can do. The Cornell Herpetological Society. Anybody know what herpetological means? I don't. Well, I see 5 of you, and no one nodded their head. So, herpetological is representing snakes, and so we study animals here in a big way. Animal science is one of the bigger majors in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and so studying snakes is one of the many interesting, wild, unsettling for some people things that we do here at Cornell, but we think of it as fun. So. Awesome. So that's all I wanted to tell you about the university. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview. I skipped over a whole lot, by the way, and so I would encourage you to go to our website. If you know somebody that goes here, talk with them. If you can get more information, any way you can get more information, please do check us out. We also have a virtual visit website, and it's if you go to the admissions website, admissions.cornell.edu, the virtual visit website is linked from that page. There's so much video on that page. You can learn so much about every single college. You can actually hear from current students. There's just so much you can do. So it's the virtual visit website. It's linked from admissions.cornell.edu. Awesome. All right. So we are right on schedule, you guys, believe it or not. And I hope you're still with me. Is everybody still with me? You guys are so excited. So if we were together, I would have you stand up right now and like do a little activity to sort of move around a little bit just to make sure that you're still focused and you're excited and you're paying super close attention. Is everybody still doing that? I should probably open my, I can't actually open my screen. I'd have to stop sharing, which I will do actually. So those of you who I can see, you look like you're in it. You're still with me. Desiree, the thing that's behind you is very cool. I just want to say that.
We also had a question in the chat.
Oh, what's the question? I love questions. This is great.
It's why didn't Cornell release their class of 2024 admissions profile?
Why didn't we release our class of 2024 admissions profile? Oh, you know what happened? The pandemic. So
I was hearing that, but I wasn't.
So here's the thing. We are so behind on so much of the stuff we would have normally done last spring and this summer. It's amazing we're not farther behind, but we are behind. And so normally the profile would have been printed and it would be distributable from our office. I'm not even working from my office. I'm actually, it looks like I'm on campus, but I'm actually at home. Little trick, right? Zoom is great like that. But we haven't actually printed the profile, and we're slowly getting a lot of things updated and uploaded on our website. So hang in there for me. If hang in there with us. We will have that and everything else that would normally be available up pretty soon. There were also delays too this year because we didn't finalize our freshman and transfer classes. And the freshman would be the class of 2024. We didn't finalize the work on creating that class until the end of July. So almost 2 months late. The pandemic has really disrupted every single part of life as we all know it. And it's been awful in ways beyond that, but we're gonna all be fine and move forward. And if you have questions about anything related to the class of 2024, feel free to, you can put it in the chat and I can answer it now, or during the presentation, put it in the chat on Thursday. I can answer it then, or I can send you the information or send you the link to our website where you might find the information. So, and what's interesting is there's actually a university profile that you can access from the university's main site. I believe that actually has been updated, but the admissions profile has not been updated yet, but it is on the way. I know that for a fact. All right. So you guys are all with me. This is awesome. Hi, Peter. I can see you. Hi, Preston. Hi, Inga. Noel, that's an awesome name. Agnes, did I say that right? If I said it wrong, you've got to tell me out. You got to tell me out loud.
Yeah, no, it's Agnes.
Agnes, okay.
Yeah.
Just moving the accent. I'll get that right. Jessica, Martina, hello. Trinity, that's a great name. And then Desiree with the cool background. Did you design that, or is it an art? What is that exactly?
I ordered it on Amazon.
Hey, that works too. What exactly is it though? I'm curious.
I don't know. It's like a sun and a moon type thing. I'm really into astrology.
Oh, cool.
Like that kind of stuff. So
okay. So remember that on Thursday when we're talking about ourselves and thinking about ourselves and answering all kinds of questions. You guys will hear more about that later. All right. So let's talk about selective admissions. Selective admissions, highly selective admissions. That is what we practice here at Cornell. So we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the admissions application, but we're going to be talking about selective admissions because the commentary you're going to get from me is going to be about the process and what we do and how we use the information, what we do with the information we receive, how it sort of turns into a decision. So let's see here. We're also going to look at a couple of applications as well. And we're going to talk about essays actually not today, but on Thursday. So applying to college is not easy, and we know that. But it's our way of getting to know you, and we want to make sure that you understand how important the application is, and that you should spend time on it. You should make sure that the information is correct, that it represents you. We consider in our process, we are holistic, and so we look at everything that we receive. Once we receive something, we can't unsee it, right? So we look at everything we receive, and it's because we want to just know as much about you as we can, as we possibly can, so that we can evaluate your readiness for our university, your readiness for the major, the program, your preparation for the major or program that you've chosen. You know, we don't want to admit someone to engineering who is going to struggle with the pace and the high level of competency that is needed in areas like physics and mathematics, chemistry, even in some cases. And so, you know, the application is really important. So we're going to talk about the nuances, the small details, in the broadest sense over the next little while. So I also want you guys to think about some of these things as well that I've mentioned here already. So time, deadlines. Deadlines are so important. I would say this year, if you're applying this year, and I didn't ask if all of you are in your final year of secondary school or high school, or if you're 2 years away from that, but if you're applying this year, my sense is that deadlines are going to be very laxed, very relaxed, very very different from prior years, because we understand that the spring and even the fall of this year have been difficult, unexpected, very challenging. A lot of students have not actually physically been to their schools. They're studying online via interface like this. They haven't seen their teachers in person. Getting documents submitted for college applications are thus going to be that much more difficult to complete and have submitted, because of the distance that we're all sort of working at and living at because of the pandemic. And so I would imagine that, there will be great flexibility with deadlines and getting things in this year, because, we really, none of us have ultimate control over that this year. So even on the university side, there will need to be some flexibility with this, with deadlines and that kind of thing. So just be prepared for that, but be mindful of deadlines. And if you need more time, why not ask a university, can you have more time if you're applying? I mean, what's the worst they can say? No. And I doubt they will say no. I doubt most schools would be willing to provide you with more time if you need it. But some important other things to consider: completing the application. You're not the only person that submits items that are related to the undergraduate admissions application. Several people at your school will also be submitting items. Perhaps other people who are part of your life or your world, who might be writing recommendation letters, they will also be submitting materials. And so completing the application is something that we want to think about as well. I'm going to review the parts of the application shortly. And then, of course, what we do with the information, I'm going to talk about that as well. I'm going to talk you through it like you're an admissions officer and we're having a conversation about a student in some sense. And then, of course, you have a personal contact in this process. You all have seen and know and have talked to me. So you have a contact in the process at Cornell. If you have any questions, you're all welcome to contact me. Happy to help. It's what we do. All right, so let's talk about some things. Early action. Raise your hand if you've heard the term early action, for those of you who have your cameras on. So almost all of you. Early action basically means that it's not binding. Early action has some varieties. There's restrictive and single choice. Restrictive single choice oftentimes mean you can't apply to other early programs, or you can't apply to other early action and early decision programs. Each school on their website will indicate if they're an early action school, whether or not it's restrictive or single choice. There are a number of schools, I'm not going to guess because I don't want to give misinformation, but there are a number of schools that are. And so you'll need to look that up. Early decision, who's heard of that? Excellent. Guess what school that you know a lot about at this point offers only early decision? You're looking at it right behind me. Well, sort of. Yes, Cornell offers early decision. We only offer one round. Early decision deadline has been extended. At Cornell, it's November 16th. It's normally November 1st. I'm going to tell you another secret. Early decision applications can come into Cornell through November 30th without any kind of special permission. So you actually have 2 weeks beyond the extended deadline this year. So we're basically accepting early decision applications up until December 1st. So remember earlier when I said this will be the year when colleges will be very flexible and are anticipating the difficulties around applying this year because we're not co-located this year like we normally are. We're all very much at a distance and away from those things that we would normally not be away from. So there'll be more time. But early decision is really an opportunity to apply to a place that you love, you know a lot about. Perhaps you have visited or you talk to someone who attends the institution. You know a lot about the institution from reviewing the websites and the guidebooks and the online guidebooks. So yeah, so early decision is a great opportunity to get your decision early. You get your decision usually as early, soon after you apply early. And it's binding, so you're agreeing to attend when you apply. And so what I typically remind students of is that if you apply early decision, you really should be applying for financial aid at the same time. And Cornell does it so that you get your decision back in mid-December and your financial aid decision regarding need-based financial aid comes right after that, so that you actually know if you've been admitted and you know what your financial aid looks like, so that you can make a decision, you and your family can make a decision that makes sense for you. With early decision programs, Cornell does this, many other schools do this as well. If early decision is not going to be financially possible for you, and you would know this after receiving your financial aid award back from the university, Cornell in this case, you could actually then ask to be released from the binding early decision agreement so that you can apply to other schools. If it's not going to be financially feasible for you, you're not locked in. You can request to be released so that you can find a place that is going to be financially feasible for you and your family. We'll talk about financial aid a little bit later on, but early decision 2 is basically early decision 1. It's just happening later. Some institutions, not Cornell, but some institutions have successive early decision or binding periods starting in November, and then they might have a second one that occurs after the year turns in the new year. So the deadline might be in late January or very early February, another binding period that you can apply to, even if you have other applications out. The only thing to remember is if you get admitted to an early decision school, you're already agreeing to come. You should have applied for financial aid so that when you get back your admission decision, you kind of already know if you can truly accept the offer of admission from an early decision school, because you'll be getting your financial aid very soon thereafter because you've already applied, and you will know if you can say yes or if you will need to ask to be released. So early decision 1, early decision 2, regular decision, that is the time when students like you apply to a lot of different schools. And that's going to give you opportunities later on to choose the place that's best for you, and the place that provides you the greatest financial support, you and your family, the greatest financial support. And you do have to consider the financial support and the impact on you and your family when you're making the decision around which college or university to attend. Not every school is going to meet 100% of your demonstrated financial need. We call that gapping. Many schools will gap you. Many schools will give you only a little bit of money. Here's $15,000. The school costs 90,000 or 80,000, and you need more than 15,000. That may not be a place that you can actually attend, and it's okay, because as I mentioned earlier, it's really important to apply to more than one institution so that you have the opportunity to make a choice that is in the best interest of your future, your family's future, and certainly your educational aspirations. And many colleges and universities are similar. A lot of us offer similar things. It's not going to be the same exact experience, but we offer a lot of similar things. So keep that in mind. App deadlines, a checklist. I typically make folders. I recommend making folders. Make a folder for Cornell and keep all the deadlines in that folder, because every school is going to have different deadlines, different requirements. And the best way to sort of organize yourself is to get the folders ready and label the folders and put your information in each of those folders. Financial aid information as well, very important, because again, the deadlines are different. Some schools have early deadlines for scholarships. Some schools might actually ask you to submit additional information, a separate additional recommendation letter for scholarship. They might ask you to submit test scores. I know most schools have relaxed requirements for test scores for this upcoming admission, for the current admission cycle for fall 2021, but some schools might still have to require them, according to them, for the purposes of awarding scholarships. So you'll just need to check with each institution, how do I apply for scholarships? Do you offer scholarships? Do you offer merit aid or just need-based financial aid? So Cornell only provides need-based financial aid, right? You have to submit the CSS profile and the FAFSA later on. So that's what we do here, but every institution will do financial aid slightly differently, and so it's important to keep track of all that. Most college applications these days are online, so you're going to be sitting in front of a computer just like this. You'll have a login. The Common App is what Cornell uses. A lot of schools use the Common App, and so it's a shared, in some sense, it's a shared application, although there are discrete, distinguishable parts of that application for specific schools, should you select to apply, but you'll be filling it out online, so just like this. And then the admission requirements for each institution are also going to vary. And Cornell is actually interesting because within each of our colleges, the admissions requirements and other information also varies. If you want to apply to the architecture school, a portfolio is required because the program is a very serious program. And the faculty want to see where you are in terms of your skill, your talent, your design ability and sensibility. And they get that from the portfolio, but they also consider, your academic performance, rigor of courses and grades in high school too. So as an example, but lots of different requirements for each college or university at Cornell, but then amongst and between different universities, there will be different requirements. So those folders that I mentioned earlier, very important. Folders, or I also use I use clipboards too. You can buy a pack of clipboards and you can sort of clip information that way. So just something to think about in terms of organizing all of this. It's a lot to know. Is anybody worried about all the stuff you have to know?
There
Well,
is
you've got
a question in the chat though.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, of if the early decision deadline is extended, does that change the admissions result date as well?
No. In this case, no. What we did at Cornell was we basically backed up our deadline officially by 2 weeks. And then I just told you unofficially that you actually have 2 weeks beyond that. And yet we're still going to be providing decisions in mid-December as we would have done normally without a pandemic and without all of the disruptions that we've all been experiencing. So um, we can get through the early decision applications. I think we feel confident about that, as per usual, even with some of them coming in a little bit later. We don't expect that everybody's going to wait and submit later, but we know that some students will need to. There's still a lot of stuff going on. Again, there's still students that are not haven't started school yet because of the pandemic. We have families and students that are displaced because of the weather in the southeastern United States, the tornadoes, there are hurricanes and tornadoes and those kinds of things. We have wildfires, and I hope those of you in California, Washington, the West Coast are fine right now, but wildfires. So lots of things that have really just disrupted, our sense of normal, and we just have to sort of go with that. So yeah, we will get your ED decision to you. Don't you worry about that. Excellent. All right, let's talk about, I think I just have two more slides left, and then we're going to look at some applications. So stay with me. I'll try to make it fun and interesting. I know that it's a lot of information. And the good news is it's being recorded. So, you can come back and listen to some of this later on if you didn't hear something, or if you wanted to just hear something again, you could certainly do that. So
Oh, and we can't see your slides. Are you
oh yeah, let me share
sharing
my screen
slides?
again.
Okay.
Let me share my screen. So
I know that'll be particularly important when there's an actual application up
that's
there.
right.
So
That's right. All right. So let me share. There we go. So just to make sure that this was caught on film, this was the slide about the application periods, deadlines, checklists, different requirements for different schools and different colleges and universities, and how to apply. Most students are applying online. This was the application about just the things that we'll be talking about. So I think we are good to move forward. Just want to make sure those are captured. Wonderful. All right. So let's now talk about the specifics. So inside the college application, there's a lot of information. Cornell is holistic. We look and consider everything that we receive and know about you. Some of the information we've required, some of the information is supplemental that we receive, meaning free will and other motivating factors have directed a student to send us something. They want us to see an extra letter of recommendation, a commendation, an award, something of that sort, an honor that they have received. So we get a lot of information and really pulling it together to determine if the individual who's applied is prepared to study at Cornell. But we also consider, how much does the student really know about this place? How much has the student invested in getting to know Cornell, invested in sort of the major that they're interested in? We look for those kinds of details in and within all the information that we receive. So demographics, personal information, family information, we consider that. It's important for us to know your context. And a lot of the information is helping us to better understand your context, where you live, if you have siblings. Did your siblings go to college? Did your parents go to college? Just because we're kind of assessing, we're assessing you and trying to understand what resources have you had in the application process? What support have you had? Are you doing this all on your own? So when I applied to college a long time ago, I did it all by myself. I'm the youngest of 7. Two of my older siblings went to college, but they're like 20 years older than me. And my mom didn't go to college. And so I was on my own. And she had high expectations, and I had to meet those expectations because my mom was the real deal. She was serious. And I'm sure your moms are too. I hope they are. It's good. It makes you formidable, right? It makes you kind of stick with it and get things done. She was quite motivating. But we want to know about those dynamics, who's in the household? Are you We also want to know, a lot of other things that we'll talk about in a second, activities and involvement. Maybe you babysit, maybe you take care of younger siblings. Those kinds of details are important to us as well. Again, sort of informing your context. So yeah, a lot of information, and you'll see this when I show you an application. Secondary school, we want to know where you go to school. That also informs our context. We consider what you've taken advantage of at the school that you attend. That's all we expect, that you've done your very best, whatever that might look like. We're all different. We all have strengths and things that we're less strong at. We all have different interests. Whatever you've taken advantage of in your secondary school, we want to see that. I mean, that's how we assess preparation and get a really good sense of how ready you are for the rigorous experience at Cornell, regardless of the program. But we do consider program specifics too. I mentioned the portfolio. Some of the human ecology students submit a design index. Engineering will be looking for particular abilities, affinity in maths and sciences, courses that you'd be taking in high school. If you tell us you want to apply to the comparative literature, history, or writing programs in the College of Arts and Sciences, guess what we're going to be doing? We're going to be looking at your essays extra hard. So this idea of getting to know you, understanding your context, looking at a lot of different pieces of information and bringing that all together, that's really what we're doing. So I mentioned standardized testing is not a requirement this year. 4 of the colleges at Cornell are test optional, and test optional means just that. It is your option whether or not you would like to submit test scores. If you have them. If you don't have them, you will not be penalized in the evaluation and review of your application. If you have test scores but decide not to send them because you don't think they represent you, or this wasn't your best moment or showing, guess what? Test optional environment means you don't have to send those test scores. If they're not going to support your candidacy and be helpful to you in a test optional environment, you don't have to submit those scores. Cornell is not requiring scores, SAT and ACT scores, this year. In our test optional colleges, there's that. We also have 3 colleges that are score free. And what that means is they don't want to see test scores at all, because they're not going to consider them whether or not you submit them. They're going to only be looking at all of the other materials, not test scores, in making the admission decision. Our test optional colleges are engineering, arts and sciences, human ecology, and industrial and labor relations. The score-free colleges at Cornell, no test scores, no thank you, we're not going to use them for fall 2021 applicants, are the College of Business, the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and the College of Architecture, Art, and Planning. Those 3 are score-free. So, and you do need to sort of keep up with this information for each of the colleges that you're applying to, as I mentioned before, because there will be different requirements at different colleges and universities, I mean. And even within Cornell, you will need to sort of know what's required as you're making your decision about which college at Cornell you are going to apply to. Resumes. How many of you guys have a resume? I would definitely put together a resume if you don't have one. You're going to need it, not just for college, but in the future, if you apply for a job, all sorts of reasons why a resume might be a good thing to have. So I would recommend that. I've actually opened the chat window so so I can see the questions. But yeah, a resume is a really great thing to have. I would put one together. In the admissions application, you'll be able to list a select number of activities or involvement or engagements or honors and awards, but you may not be able to list everything. And I think the expectation is within the application, you're pulling out those things that are most important to you. And so having a resume would allow you to submit as much information as possible, more information than perhaps would fit within the space provided in the common application. We're trying to get to know you. you can't send too much information. Like, it's just not possible, especially this year. And so the resume I would recommend, because honors and awards are important. Your activities and your involvement. How do you spend your time? What choices have you made about how you're going to spend your time? All of that really matters to us. Work experience, important. I mentioned earlier, if you babysit the younger siblings, we want to know about all that, because we can add up, how much time is going towards this activity and that activity, and really sort of figure out, get some sense of how busy you are as a person. That's your context. We want to know about that. So one question from Peter, this is back to testing. So if CALS is score free, how will they determine academic scholarships? Hey, Peter, great question. Remember, Cornell is an institution that only provides need-based financial aid. So need-based financial aid is determined per our review of the College Scholarship Service Profile, or CSS profile. So CALS doesn't need test scores because academic scholarships are not happening. Cornell does not provide scholarships based on merit, talent, or otherwise, because everybody at this school is an amazing student. Everybody is super talented. We wouldn't have any money left. So what we do with the financial aid we have, and it is one of the it is one of the largest expenditures of the university every single year. Financial aid, need-based financial aid expenditure to the tune of about $250 to $260 million for our 15,000 undergraduates. What we do is we look at the CSS profile, and we basically determine from that what your family can contribute, and then what your family can't contribute. We provide a financial aid package that supports what remains, essentially. So great question. Great question. And I see Waiver responded. Thank you. So back to what's inside the application, though. Let's talk a little bit about the short answer essays, the personal statement, interest essay. We do actually, we do have you communicate with us. So a lot of schools don't interview. Cornell is one of those schools that does not interview most applicants. The only applicants that get interviewed at Cornell are architecture applicants. It's offered optionally for applicants to the fine art program. But otherwise, interviews aren't available. And so the way that we get to know you sort of as a person, as we sort of dig deeper and sort of try to understand what motivates you, what your passion or passions are, is through the writing that you do. So there can be in the application rather, short answer essays. There's certainly going to be a personal statement. We're going to talk about that on Thursday, and an interest statement about the program, major, and college you might choose. So different colleges do this differently. We're going to talk a little bit about that on Thursday, and we'll talk specifically about Cornell as well. And I'll give you some tips around that. Teacher evaluations. Make sure you find teachers that like you to write your evaluations. Teachers that know you. Teachers that can say great things about you. Make sure you give your teachers time to write a recommendation and submit it. That's one of the things that I see most often, that teachers don't have the time they need, the lead time they need, and have a conversation with them. Go over the things that you might be submitting, that you'd like for them to say as they're submitting the letter of recommendation. That conversation could make a difference in what that recommendation actually says. So lots of people read your application to learn your story. We're looking for this connectedness, this fit, this match that you might have. We look at the school you attend and we consider, what has this individual done in the school that they attend? How have they succeeded? How have they challenged themselves? And what success is showing from the challenge that they've undertaken at their school, or even outside of your school in your locality. Some students don't have higher level classes available in their high school, and so they might do dual enrollment classes. I did that when I was in high school because We didn't have honors classes. We didn't have AP classes. We didn't have international baccalaureate classes. We had a general college prep curriculum. That was it. So I had to do dual enrollment at a college, a four-year college that was about 5 blocks from my high school. So we really do look at, you know, what's the profile of your school, what were the available opportunities, and what did you take advantage of? We look at your transcript, your grades. You know, we're looking for strong grades. We want you to be successful here, and any clues and indicators that we have, and we get those from a lot of different points within the application itself, but the transcript is a great provider of clues, along with knowing, you know, what's available at your high school. That helps us determine, understand better your preparation for a place like Cornell in this case. Recommendations, we talked about those. Those provide further insight, you know, what kind of learner, you know, is Jessica? You know, what kind of learner, what kind of discussion participant, what kind of writer, you know, is Desiree? These are the kinds of things that we learn from the teacher recommendations. We also can get recommendations from members of your community and others who know you well. Your parents, by the way, should not write you recommendation letters. We know your parents love you. We know they only have good things to say. So those are not going to be ones that Cornell is going to be looking for. But if there's someone in your community that can really sort of talk about what kind of person you are, and how intense and intentional and dug in you are, and how you kind of do those things that matter most to you, and really talk about what's on the inside, that can be a really helpful recommendation to send, along with the required teacher recommendations. Your guidance counselor or a school official will also usually write something on your behalf, and they help us to sort of contextualize you. They sort of give us more information about you as an individual in your school, and as a member of the class of students that are graduating around you in your school. And so that the commentary from the guidance counselor and from your teachers, super important, but others can certainly write on your behalf as well. And then of course we talked about essays. All right, let's take a look at a couple of applications as we wrap up. I'm a few minutes over. You will have homework for Thursday, by the way, just so you know. We're gonna give you some questions to consider. And the questions are really meant to sort of just to get you thinking about yourself and what's important, what matters to you. We want you to do that. Let me make sure I'm still logged in. I'm not, but I will be in just a second. Okay. Thank you guys for staying with me. You guys are so attentive. I really appreciate it. All right. Okay, we're going to screen share again. Screen 2. Okay, there we go. So we're going to take a look at an application, a real application. And the reason I asked you guys all those questions before about where you were from was to kind of make sure that I wasn't showing you an application of someone that you might know. None of the students whose applications you're looking at are Cornell students, though they did apply to Cornell. None of them are here, and the decisions that they got are not important. That's not why we're doing this. What I want to show you, though, is the application itself, so you can kind of see what we see and consider all of the details that I just mentioned in terms of, you know, the information that's inside the application. We won't be looking at a transcript. You guys know what a transcript looks like. We won't be looking at recommendation letters because those are submitted by others. But we're going to look at the main portion of the application right now, for a couple of students, and then we'll wrap up. This is the part of the application that you, the student, the applicant, would complete and submit. And then on Thursday, we're going to look at the essays, specifically the other part of the application that you, the student, the applicant, completes and submits. Has selected, and students select this information. This is provided by the student. The student has selected American Indian or Alaska Native. The student is enrolled, has indicated yes, and is enrolled as a member of the Eastern Cherokee, North Carolina, and he's got his enrollment number there as well. So you can just see how this happens. You don't have to be enrolled, by the way, for this to matter to us. I just want you guys to know that. A lot of our Native students are not enrolled, and that's fine. If you are enrolled and you have that information, do share it with us. The more we know, the more we will consider, the more we can consider. So, but that's important for us to know. Language is spoken, citizenship. For undocumented students, this is where we find out oftentimes that they're undocumented or if students are citizens of other countries. And then, of course, we find out a little bit about socioeconomic status based upon whether a fee waiver was submitted and, you know, if the student is enrolled in TRIO programs or other programs, reduced lunch programs, et cetera, at their high school. This is important for us to know, just to get a sense of the socioeconomic background of the student, what the family is sort of dealing with, and what things look like at home. That's important for us to consider. We want to consider, you know, can we support you as a student on our campus? You know, what other supports might you need beyond academics? You're a person, you know, you're coming from an environment. There may or may not have been supports for you in that environment, the home environment you're coming from. We want to consider what we might have to do that's the same or different, or that might, you know, need to be increased in terms of support that we might provide you were you a student on the Cornell University campus. You can see Billy's parents, Dallas's parents rather, are married, or both parents live together, married, no college, no bachelor's degree. First generation college status is something we care about. That's important for us to know. The student's mother has an associate's degree, but we would still consider the student a first generation college student, especially at a four-year institution like Cornell. So, you know, what do the parents do? You guys probably already know this. The things that your parents do, their occupations, their work, those inspire us. Those create in our minds the ideas about what we might like to do ourselves, you know, after we finish college or even just going to college. And so we like to know, like, you know, what were the influences and, you know, what things may have motivated a student to apply to an institution like Cornell, or to a major like chemical engineering, or, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's great to sort of know also too what the siblings are, you know, what your siblings have done, where they are, where you are in terms of, you know, the family, the sibling order. Those are just important things for us to know too. Your high school is very important. Again, that's the context, the student, Swain County High School, the rank in class, counselor information. Sometimes students will do dual enrollment. You can see under colleges and universities, this student did dual enrollment, just like me, just like many of you might be doing. Sometimes students will just do summer programs or take classes all on their own. You know, that's a time and resource question, and you're welcome to make that choice. It's not required. It is not required, but some students do, and you can see here that Dallas did a summer program at the University of Miami in Coral Gables. Interesting. Current classes. So this is a senior who's in regular and honors classes. Remember I said earlier that not every high school offers a lot of APs. This is probably one of those schools that doesn't offer a lot of APs. And so that would explain Dallas doing dual enrollment, especially during his, this will be his last year of high school. Honors and awards, important for us to know. He's gotten Tribal Council Merit Awards. He's gotten awards in school, regional science awards, you know, theater awards, it looks like. So lots of different things to know about this student. We consider all of this. He wants to be a lawyer. That's important for us to know. We'll think about, okay, so he's chosen this major. He wants to be a lawyer. Also too, if you've had support, a TRIO organization, other organizations, community-based organizations, the support they provide you is great. It's allowed. We want them to provide you that support. It's great for us to know about that too. So don't be shy about sharing that information in the application. It's really helpful for us to know. Again, testing, not a big deal this year. One thing about testing I will say is if you're applying to one of Cornell's, and I'm speaking Cornell specific, if you're applying to one of Cornell's test optional schools and your test scores are good, you should consider sending them. Again, we cannot unsee something that we have seen. And here's some other good news for you. You do not have to send your test scores initially from the testing agency. You can write, you can type in your scores, you can self-report them. Save the money now, you know? So if you're applying to one of those 4 test optional schools at Cornell and your scores are good, and I would say a good score, a score that's going to help you, is a score that's probably above, that's definitely above 600 and around 650, honestly, on the SAT. If you're thinking about the ACT, we're talking about, you know, a 30 to 32, and then higher, obviously. Those are scores, again, if you're applying to a test optional college, that will help you. I mentioned the activities earlier. You can see that Dallas is a golfer. He's involved in Leadership Council, Secretary of Student Council, which is great, National Honor Society, yearbook. He's involved in his church. Involvement in your church, that's something we want to know about. Cornell is non-sectarian, but we have so many different types of students on this campus, and we have an extraordinary religious infrastructure in terms of students connecting with their spirituality and their faith while they're students on our campus. That's something that you can do while you're here. That's something that admissions officers are going to be thinking about. Oh, this student is Baptist, and we have a Baptist minister who's a part of, you know, the resources that the university has, and they have services, and this student might get really involved with that. These are details that we want to know about. Guitar class. Dallas is a collector of vintage coins. That's cool. Likes history. Cultural. Dallas is involved with the Cherokee Youth Council. That's a big deal too. Identity. How is the student informing us that they're sort of engaged with their identity and their background in ways that are significant? The activities that you choose tell us that, and we want to know all of that. So that's a quick look, you guys, at the main portion of the application that you complete. You tell us what college, what major you want, if you're applying regular decision or early decision. And we have the other information we receive from your school. And so that's the admissions application workshop in a nutshell. Thank you for staying with me. You can see here too that there's the resume that I mentioned is right here. A lot of students submit that resume, even though they indicate some items within the confines of the actual application. So I'm going to stop sharing and thank you again. I'm sure I'm out of time because it's 8 o'clock. Out of time, but you have homework. And Wava, how are they going to get the homework?
I will be emailing it to everyone after this, and we do actually have a little more time. It usually goes till 8:30, but I figured.
Oh, great! So I can take questions. I don't have anything to do. I would love to stay with you guys and take questions. So, why don't I talk quickly about the homework assignment, and then we'll take some questions about what we talked about tonight. So the homework assignment, I can actually show you the homework assignment. I can share my screen because I'm a pro at doing that. How many of you guys really like technology? I'm sure all of you like technology.
Yeah, I had quite the time with breakout rooms last Thursday.
Sending images with your phone and being in constant communication with your friends. It's overwhelming for me sometimes, but I do my best. So the homework for Thursday, we're going to talk about essays. We're going to talk about writing. Really talking about writing is first and foremost getting you to think about yourself and to talk about yourself and to sort of get some information from yourself. And so to do that, what we've got some great colleagues, staff, you know, helpers that are going to help you get at some of the answers to some of these questions and to hear others' answers to these questions too. It's a really great opportunity for you guys to kind of hear what others are thinking and to learn from each other. So we're gonna take all that in and use that on Thursday. But what you see here is we've got a discussion guide and breakout room questions for you to consider. And these are guiding and defining questions, the ones that are here below. These are not the actual essay prompts, but what these questions will do is they will aid you in getting information that you determine is really important, that you can then place in an outline that will help you when you write your admission essays. So the essay prompts are great and they help you get started and maybe they help you end, but there's the middle of that essay. And the middle of the essay, you know, aside of the prompt, that's really the important part. We want to get to know you in the middle portion of that essay. And so some of the details that will come from you based upon the questions that are here. What is it you want people to know about you? Where are you from? About what are you most proud? These are details about you that may not be anywhere else in the application, but that could find their way into your essays. The two essays that are most important, the personal statement, we'll talk about that on Thursday, which is wholly about you. Doesn't matter what the prompt is. I'll talk about that on Thursday. It is about you. So I've actually seen some students almost avoid the essay prompt and just write whatever essay they want. And believe it or not, that's actually one of the options as far as the Common App is concerned. You kind of write your own essay and kind of leave the question, the leading question behind. But the prompts are meant to be a guide and to help get you started. These questions, you're going to get this sheet, write down your answers to these questions. We're going to come back on Thursday and talk about them. There are a bunch of them. So take a little time and think about it. Use a pencil if you're one of these folks who like changes your mind, you know, and doesn't want to commit to something right away. You might have many different answers to some of these questions, and think about what it is you want to communicate about yourself. Think about where you are now. What is it like to be you? What does your world look like? What does it feel like? Describe it. This is stuff that you really need to be thinking about when you write your essays, because the admissions committee does not know you. I don't know Dallas. We just looked at Dallas Bennett's application. I don't know him. I'm sure he's a fantastic individual. I get to know him from all the information and most specifically from the essays that Dallas writes. I will get to know about Dallas, from Dallas, based upon what Dallas says to me. And the great question from Martina, are we going to have to share our answers? Oh no, yes you will. We're gonna have you guys in breakout rooms because again, this exercise is about talking. If you can talk about yourself, if you can put yourself out there a little bit, it's gonna be easier to write about yourself. This is probably one of the more challenging moments, I think, as writing is concerned, because it's about you. It's not about a text that you're studying. It's not about a historical event. It's not a research paper. It's not a news article. It's about you. It's really hard to write about yourself if it's not something that you're used to doing. You know what's even harder than writing about yourself? Talking about yourself. If you're not used to doing it, singing your own praises, sort of thinking, you know what? I'm really good at this. I'm really good at this. A lot of us, you know, we were taught to be humble. We were taught to sort of, you know, to sort of not overthink, you know, how important we are in the context of the world in which we live, and that there were greater and more important things. Well, that can still be true, and you know, being humble is still something that a lot of us appreciate. Nothing wrong with that. But in the admissions application, this is your moment to shine. This is your moment and yours alone. And so we need for this application to show us who you are. it's a lot of pressure, I know. The essays are probably the most difficult part of the application because they're the one thing that hasn't already happened, right? You really do have control over the essays until the moment that you submit the application. And so we're going to talk about some things that you should be thinking about. Um, Writing is actually fun. I actually love writing. Um, and it's interesting. I actually love writing, and I think that writing has made me feel less pressed, concerned about public speaking because I think one informs the other. Some of you might be great storytellers. Think about the writing and these questions as getting at your story, telling your story. You have no idea who my colleagues are who are going to read your application at Cornell, let alone any other school. And you might know, you might learn who they are, but you don't know how they are. You don't know what they're looking for. And so the best thing that you can do is to present the very best of you in the application, certainly in your essays. What questions do you have?
I was
Feel
hoping you
free.
could talk a little bit about the additional information section of the common application.
Yeah. Yeah. So the additional information section, that was the section at the end of Bennett's application, I think. And Bennett chose to include a resume, information that would be on a resume. A lot of students will do that. I'm trying to think what else I've seen in the additional information. Students that have designed websites, that have written books, that write poetry, they will send URLs and provide descriptions. If students have completed a research paper or an academic paper in school about which they're really proud, they might include an abstract of that paper or even the entire paper supplementally as a part of their application. So the application itself has an opportunity for additional information, but students can also send additional information outside of the application to the admissions office at Cornell by just sending it to admissions@cornell.edu. Or there might be opportunity to submit additional information related to your application within the application portal that you will receive once we receive your application for admission. You'll get access to this portal, and the portal is the place where you'll get your admission decision. It's also the place where you can get a lot of other information about the process. We provide updates. You can upload test scores after the fact using the portal if you didn't do it, if you didn't write them on the application, or send them to us from the testing agency if you're applying to one of our test optional schools. So yeah, I mean, the additional information section, sometimes students will write and will tell us things that are very personal. Sometimes students write very personal things in their essays. And this is a choice that you have to make. You have to decide, what is it I'm willing to share? What is it I need to share about myself so that these folks that I don't know can get to know me and see why I might be applying to this institution, and why Cornell means so much to me, this opportunity means so much to me. Sometimes the details of one's home life and that information, which shows your resilience and can be motivating, and shows that you have courage, and that you're wise, and that you are not afraid of challenges, and you seek out opportunity. Those are the kinds of things we want to know. And so we see a lot of information supporting that in the essays, in the additional information section of the common application, and also just submitted external supplemental additional information that we receive from a lot of our applicants. Now, I wouldn't recommend sending every single thing you could possibly send to us, because we'll talk about this when we talk about the essays, but there are time constraints to consider. And so it's really important to put out there what we need to know and what you would like for us to know as directly and as immediately as possible. And so that's why, think about the activities listing. That's why the activities listing, might need to be those things that are most important to you that you're doing, or those things that consume the greatest amount of your time and energy that are also important to you. And so you do that, but you can still submit a resume in addition, because there may be a whole lot more about you to know than space allows within the common application. So that's a good question. We get a lot of questions about that. And honestly, if you have questions about like, well, how can I share this additional information with you? Feel free to just write to us and ask us. Also, feel free to submit. Honestly, you could email me any additional information you want to add to your application, and it will be done. I mean, so you guys are actually kind of lucky because you know me and you have great access now. But you can always ask us, and we will give you the answer and let you know how to do what it is you'd like to do. Are there other questions? Martina, are you nervous about having to share your answers on Thursday? I'm going to stop sharing my screen too. You don't look nervous. You're smiling. So maybe you're not nervous. Well, and think about it too. You know, this whole process, the process of applying for admission, I actually love this process because, and I'm glad you're excited, Martina. Glad you're excited. I'll be sure to note that with your breakout room facilitator. But I love this process because it forces you to stop being quiet. It forces you to come out of yourself and share a bit of yourself. It forces you to discover yourself. You can't tell someone about yourself if you don't know yourself. And it's really important. Knowing yourself is really important because, you know, all of us care about things. All of us stand for things. For all of us, certain things matter. Certain things are very important. For all of us, there are certain things that are inextricable from who we are, from our identity, from how we see ourselves in the world. And this process really does start the uncovering and dismantling of people in a good way, because you have to communicate yourself to someone that you don't know. And so you have to make choices about what you say, what you don't say, what you share, what you need to share. And there's not a single right way to do that. I think you have to think about this process, you know, sort of as you know, as one in one moment. And so think about, well, what does my transcript say about me? Okay, it says I'm a good student. It says I go to this school. It says I have these grades in these classes. What is the application, the thing I showed to you, what does my application say about me? Okay, so there's that information plus my school information. You know, and honestly, the essays provide that opportunity as well to sort of think about what's missing. What do I need to say that I haven't said? That's why those questions that I gave you are so important, because you will find that sometimes, you know, what do I want people to know about me? That's an important question to think about. That's also not anything that's anywhere else necessarily in the application other than the essays, unless you've communicated it, perhaps an additional information. But otherwise, what is it you want people to know about you? That's not anywhere else in the application. About what are you most proud? That's not anywhere else in the application. Who do you admire the most? That's not anywhere. What matters to you? We can assume what matters to you, but we won't know what's truly important to you unless you tell us. What has been challenging to you in your life? That question has not been answered yet. And we would want to know the answer to that question. You know, for you, it might be, you know, school has been the most challenging thing for me in my life. It could be that my family is separated. You know, my parents are divorced. That might have been the most challenging thing for you. It's good for us to know those kinds of things. We're looking to see, you know, what's going on in your world and how you have taken your story and turned it around in support of your moving forward and becoming the person that you see yourself becoming. I mean, that's really what we're looking for. We're all survivors, you know, in some sense of that word. And so we're looking to learn about your survivorship. Honestly, we're looking to learn about the obstacles and challenges. Everybody has them. They're just different for each of us, you know, but how have you not let those obstacles and challenges, you know, count you out? How have you not let obstacles and challenges, you know, sort of pull you aside and slow you down? I mean, that's what we want to know. Um, Being a student at Cornell is super difficult, right? It's challenging because the faculty members, they give you a lot of work. They're trying to expand your mind in ways that you know you hadn't even imagined was possible. And then on top of that, you've got all of these activities and all of these people that you want to know and get to know and create relationships and bonds with, just because that's what humans do. And it's a dynamic experience. And I think we're also in the admissions office, we're looking to see, can this student handle this? Can this student handle being at a big school like Cornell, medium-sized school like Cornell, with all of the things that we have to offer? Is this student going to come here and take advantage and really sort of invest in this founding a motivation and orientation for the university, which is student choice? Student choice. Create your own adventure, design your experience, determine your own journey as a student here. There's a lot to choose from. Is this person going to come to Cornell and take advantage of it? That's what we're trying to figure out. Can you do the work, and are you going to come here and really absorb? And are you going to give back too? That's something else that's really important. And sometimes that comes out too in the essays that students are, you know, that applicants are the kind that give back, and not just resiliency and courage, but also paying it forward and helping others perhaps the way they've been helped. We learn a lot from the essays. You would be surprised. You would be absolutely be surprised. Other questions?
I actually have a more lighthearted question, but
Yeah.
I wanted to know what your favorite Cornell tradition is.
Oh, wow. Well, so besides the ice cream thing, because I always mention that, I love ice cream, but I'm lactose intolerant. And so the great thing is they have these pills that you can get. They're called lactate pills, and you take them before you have the Cornell ice cream and everything's fine. So besides that, because that is a tradition, I look like I've eaten a lot of ice cream too, and I'm proud of that as well. My favorite tradition at Cornell probably is Dragon Day. I would call that's a tradition. So the first year architects every year work with that group of 55 students. They create a dragon. They decide on the materials they're going to use to compose. You guys know what a dragon looks like. They decide on the materials they're going to use to compose the dragon. You know, they're working as a team, as a group. You know, they have to procure resources, find time to design. They have to consider the elements. The dragon actually gets paraded through campus. The dragon has to be movable. They also think about a lot of the topics that are reinforced in their classes in the architecture school. So, you know, sustainability and, you know, thinking about the environment. The dragon needs to be disposed of after it's been built. And the dragon, by the way, is significantly long, as dragons are. There's a tail, there's a middle section, a head. So there's a lot that the architects do every year. Every year the dragon is different. If you go onto the Cornell website, specifically the architecture website, you might be able to see some of Dragon Days past. It usually happens the Friday before our spring break during the spring semester. I don't know what's going to happen this year. We didn't have Dragon Day. Did we have Dragon Day last year? No, we didn't, because campus closed down on March 15th. So we will see what Dragon Day looks like this coming spring semester. But it's just such a cool time because you just don't know what the architects are going to do. I mean, these are super creative people. One year they used t-shirts, old t-shirts, and they made a dragon. It was incredible what they did with fabric. They use metal, they use wood. I mean, they will recycle materials from previous dragons, and you know it's just amazing what they come up with. So I like Dragon Day quite a bit. Pretty much everybody in Ithaca comes up to campus for Dragon Day to see what has been created for this particular year, and every year it's different. I feel like I've been surprised every year by how creative the architecture students are. Mhm. Hang on, Noel, hang on. Awesome. Other questions? That was a great question, Inga. Thank you. Well, listen, you guys were terrific. It was great to meet you all. Don't forget about your homework. And all you have to do is write this down for yourself. And as Martina pointed out earlier, you are going to be sharing what you've written down. So hopefully you've written something down in small groups after the larger group session tomorrow not tomorrow, Thursday, about the admissions essay. And we will talk a bit more about that. I'll give you some more pointers and tips and things to do, things not to do. And again, bring your responses to these questions with you on Thursday, and we will have a fun, interesting time.
Yes, thank you so much, Sean, for being with us, sharing such great information. And yeah, we will get back together on Thursday, same time, same place, 6:30 Eastern
Awesome.
time. And I will
Awesome.
be emailing you all with the homework.
Excellent. All right, you guys, thanks so much for everything. Have a good evening.